Yesterday in our series Unlikely Heroes, we continued with Judges chapter 4, and we discovered two unlikely heroes named Deborah and Jael. Now, her name is actually Yael, which means Yahweh is my strong one, but Jael sounds better because it rhymes with nail, and if you don't know why, you need to read her story because it's crazy. But what made them unlikely is that they were women, and in that day, in the late Bronze Age, it was absolutely unheard of for women to be in charge, for women to lead a battle, for women to be prophets and judges, and yet there they are in the history of the Hebrew people as leaders, as a prophet, as military victors. It's an amazing account. But as you look at the rest of the judges that we're going to read about, a few of them, pretty much all of them except for maybe two, were regular, ordinary people. There was nothing about them to set them apart. There was nothing unique about them that made people just assume they would be the next leader. In fact, it was quite the opposite. They were people that none of us would have chosen to lead Israel. And I can promise you they were people that none of the Israelites would have chosen to lead Israel. With the exception of Jephthah, who before the war in his period started, was already a great warrior, and people looked to him for victory. And Samson, who was born for either greatness or destruction and ended up fulfilling both of those. Other than Jephthah and Samson, all of those judges, all of the people who were raised to leadership and exalted in victory, were regular, everyday people. You have farmers, and you have shepherds, and you have a crippled man, and you have two women, and you just have these regular folk living in the hills, living on their farms, trying to survive. And yet, when a season of testing comes, for some reason, God raises them up. And I would like to suggest two reasons why God chose people like Ehud, who was crippled, and Deborah and Jael, who were women, and Shamgar, who was just this farmer who had an ox, and Gideon, who was from the smallest of the smallest of the smallest tribe and family. Why would God choose these people? And I think there are two things that set all of them apart, and two things that we can also follow their example. We can use those examples, and we can be used by God too. The first thing is they were faithful when everyone else around them was not. When God would look at his people and the Israelites had turned away from him and turned to the practices and the customs of the people around them, the culture around them, it was evil in his sight because one of the things they did was child sacrifice. And it seemed like, in the eyes certainly of these leaders, that everybody in the nation was following those practices, and that's why we were being punished. However, the people that God raised up, the Gideons, the Jephthahs, the Deborahs, all of those people, they were faithful when everyone else was not. So faithfulness to God, to the truth, to what's right, was an important characteristic in being one of these judges. And the other thing was they were always ready to serve. They were ready to serve, whatever it took. They were going to do whatever God said, whatever that meant, whether that meant creating a dagger and shoving it in a fat man's belly, or whether that meant using a long stick, or whether that meant just standing 180 degrees against culture. They were willing to serve. Now, those two things give me hope, because I'm not going to be a Samson, and I'm probably not going to be a Jephthah, but I can be an Ehud. I can be a Deborah. I can be somebody who, when the world around me is going crazy, I stay faithful. That's my choice. That's your choice. You don't have to follow culture. You don't have to follow the example of others who are going away from God. You can stay faithful. And service is really the mark of greatness in God's kingdom. If you're willing to serve and ready to serve, and on a moment's notice you're jumping in to serve, well, you are eligible for greatness. And that's really the lesson of the book of Judges, in that in his kingdom, everyone is eligible to be a warrior. Everyone is eligible to be a deliverer, a rescuer, a person that God uses. So today, you are eligible for God to use you to rescue people, to help people, to serve people. All you need is a heavy dose of faithfulness. You stay faithful when all those around you are not, and a willingness to serve. And that prepares you, that sets you up to be an unlikely hero. So let us be faithful, serving people. Bye.